The temporal storm raged for what felt like hours but lasted only seconds. Space around Earth twisted and folded as the chronophage weapon's energy feedback created chaos across multiple timelines. Admiral Subin Han watched from behind the moon as reality repaired itself. Her instruments showed impossible readings, energy signatures from past and future bleeding into the present moment. "Status report," she called to her crew, though she wasn't sure what kind of report could make sense of what they had witnessed. "The Kethran fleet is gone," reported Byung-ho Ryu, his voice filled with amazement. "Not destroyed, gone, like they never existed at all." Where the alien armada had been, space was empty except for slowly fading energy patterns. The chronophage weapon and its 300 Guardian ships had been caught in their own temporal explosion. Captain Sang-woo, Kim led his remaining fighters on a patrol around Earth. The planet hung peacefully in space, unmarked by the battle that had raged around it. But Yuna Bei's sensors detected something strange. "Sang-woo, I'm picking up temporal echoes," she reported. "It's like there are ghost images of other versions of this battle overlapping with ours." She was right. For brief moments, different versions of the space battle flickered in and out of existence. In some echoes, Earth was a burning ruin. In others, the planet had never been attacked at all. On Earth, temporal physicist Woo Young-koo studied the readings with growing excitement. What he saw changed everything humanity thought they knew about time and space. "The paradox worked," he told his colleagues. "The feedback loop didn't just destroy the Kethran fleet. It created a stable time loop that locks Earth's survival into the basic structure of the universe." He showed them calculations that proved their victory was now written into the fundamental laws of physics. In every possible timeline, the battle would end the same way, with Earth's survival guaranteed. But there was still no sign of the vanguard of tomorrow. The future ship had vanished into the temporal storm, and no one knew if Captain Jin-ho and his crew had survived. The answer came from an unexpected source. Scientists Jae-min-oh and Sarah Kim detected a faint signal coming from outside normal space. The message was weak, but the voice was familiar. "This is Captain Jin-ho," the transmission said, though his voice sounded strange, like it was coming from very far away. "We exist now between all possible timelines. The temporal explosion scattered us across every moment that ever was or ever will be." Admiral Subin felt her heart sink. "Are you alive? Can you return to normal space?" "We are more than alive," Jin-ho replied, and now his voice carried a note of wonder. "We have become guardians of the timeline itself. We can see every possible future, every potential past, and we can protect them all." The future humans had been transformed by the temporal explosion. Instead of being destroyed, they had become something new, beings who existed across all of time simultaneously. "We can see other species under attack by temporal predators," Jin-ho continued. "Races being erased from history before they can develop. We're going to stop them, just like we stopped the Kethran here." This revelation opened up a vast new understanding of the universe. The Kethran had not been unique. There were other species that traveled through time, eliminating potential threats before they could become dangerous. Down on Earth, xenoarchaeologist Soon Ja-yu made a discovery that connected everything. She found ancient ruins that hadn't been there before the battle, structures that seemed to have been built by the time-traveling future humans as they worked to protect Earth throughout history. "They've been protecting us all along," she realized. "Every time humanity survived a disaster, every time we avoided extinction, they were there, guiding us away from the dangerous timelines." The bootstrap paradox was complete. The future humans had saved their own past, creating a stable loop where their existence was guaranteed. But they had also become something greater, protectors of all life across the galaxy. Prime Minister Jong-ho Park received a final message from the transformed humans. It contained coordinates to other worlds under attack and knowledge about how to build temporal shields that would protect entire star systems. "Humanity's destiny is not just to survive," the message said. "It's to become guardians of time itself, to protect other species from the predators that hunt across the centuries." The transformation wasn't limited to the future humans. Earth itself had been changed by the temporal explosion. Scientists discovered that the planet now existed as a fixed point in space-time, a place that could never be erased or destroyed by temporal weapons. "We've become an anchor," explained temporal theorist Yun-soo Bang. a stable point that other timelines can attach to. As long as Earth exists, the flow of time remains stable across the entire galaxy. This made Earth incredibly valuable to peaceful species throughout the universe. Within days of the battle, alien ambassadors began arriving, not as conquerors, but as allies seeking protection from temporal predators. Captain Sangwoo and Yuna were among the first humans chosen to join the new Temporal Defense Corps. Their job would be to pilot ships equipped with temporal technology, protecting other worlds from attacks across time. It's hard to believe, Yuna said as they prepared for their first mission to defend a distant world. A week ago, we were just fighter pilots trying to save Earth. Now we're responsible for protecting entire timelines. Admiral Su Bin Han was promoted to head Earth's new temporal navy. Her experience fighting an impossible enemy made her the perfect choice to lead humanity's expansion into time travel warfare. We've learned something important, she told her new officers. The universe is much stranger and more dangerous than we ever imagined. But it's also full of allies we haven't met yet. The Kethran Empire, meanwhile, found their plans completely disrupted. Their time-traveling fleets discovered that Earth could no longer be attacked in any timeline. The temporal feedback had created a protective barrier around human history. Worse for them, other species began developing similar protections. The temporal predators who had dominated galactic history for millions of years suddenly found their victims fighting back with weapons and shields borrowed from humanity's. Future engineer In Ho Kwon led the project to reverse engineer the temporal technology left behind by the vanguard of tomorrow. Within months, Earth was building its own time-traveling ships and temporal weapons. We're not just defending ourselves anymore, he explained to his team. We're teaching the entire galaxy how to protect itself from temporal attacks. The final message from Captain Jin Ho and his transformed crew carried both hope and responsibility. Time is not a river that flows in one direction. It's an ocean with currents flowing in all directions. Someone needs to watch over those currents, to make sure they don't carry away the innocent. Humanity had found its true calling, not as conquerors or explorers, but as protectors of time itself. Earth became the center of a new alliance. Species from across the galaxy, working together to defend reality, from those who would rewrite history for their own benefit. The mysterious ship that had decloaked to save. Earth had given humanity something greater than victory. It had given them purpose that stretched across all of time and space. As Earth's first temporal patrol ships prepared to launch, carrying human crews to defend distant worlds and forgotten centuries, one thing was certain. Humanity would never again fight alone. They had become part of something larger, guardians of every moment that ever was or ever could be. The battle for Earth was over. The battle for time itself had just begun, and somewhere in the space between seconds, Captain Jin Ho and his crew continued their eternal watch, making sure that every species had the chance to write its own future among the stars. Captain Jin Ho's plan was unlike anything in military history. The future humans would share their temporal weapons technology with Earth's fleet, but using these weapons came with terrible risks. Every time we fire a temporal weapon, we create small tears in reality, explained Ga Young Lim, the weapons officer from the vanguard of tomorrow. She spoke with Earth's weapons expert Wei Jin Park through a quantum communication link. What kind of tears? Wei Jin asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer. The kind that could unravel all of space and time if we're not careful, Ga Young replied grimly. Each shot ages our target by thousands of years and seconds, but too many shots could age the entire universe. Despite the danger, they had no choice. The Kethran were preparing their chronophage weapon, a device that would erase Earth from every timeline that had ever existed or ever could exist. Admiral Su Bin Han coordinated between the two human fleets while watching the enemy formation on her tactical screen. The alien ships had arranged themselves in a perfect circle around a massive device that hurt to look at directly. It's like looking into a hole in reality, reported Byung-ho Ryu from his sensor station. Our instruments can barely detect it, but it's definitely there. The chronophage appeared as a sphere of absolute darkness, so black that it seemed to absorb the light from nearby stars. Around it, the Kithran ships channeled energy from their own cores into the terrible weapon. Captain Sang-woo Kim led his fighter squadron in a desperate attempt to disrupt the alien formation. His ships had been equipped with small temporal disruptors, weapons that could age enemy armor until it crumbled like ancient rust. Remember, short bursts only, he told his pilots over the radio. Yuna, stay close to me. If these weapons malfunction, we could age ourselves to death. Yuna Bay acknowledged the order, though her hands shook on the flight controls. The idea of weapons that could control time itself terrified her. But watching Earth's possible erasure from existence terrified her more. The first attack run began as both human fleets moved toward the Kethran Circle. The future ship Vanguard of Tomorrow led the charge, its massive weapons creating ripples in space itself. When the temporal cannons fired, reality warped around their targets. Kethran ships that had seemed invincible suddenly aged thousands of years in seconds. Their crystal hulls cracked and crumbled as time accelerated around them. "It's working," shouted Sayok Hobek from his fighter cockpit. He watched enemy vessels turning to dust before his eyes. But the Kethran fought back with weapons of their own. They fired beams of pure energy that could slice through any known material. Several human ships vanished in bright flashes as the alien weapons found their targets. On Earth, temporal theorist Wu Young-ku monitored the battle through advanced sensors. What he saw on his screens made him gasp with fear. "The fabric of space is starting to tear," he reported to the command center. "Every temporal weapon fired is creating small holes in reality. If this continues, the damage could spread across the entire galaxy." But stopping wasn't an option. The Kethran chronophage was nearly ready to fire. Once activated, it would send waves of temporal destruction backward through time, erasing Earth from every moment it had ever existed. In space, the battle became a three-dimensional dance of death. Human fighters weaved between massive alien ships, while temporal weapons aged entire sections of the enemy fleet into cosmic dust. Ye-Jin Choi, the tactical officer from the future ship, worked with Earth's Dong-Wook Yang to coordinate attacks across multiple time streams. Their weapons could fire into the past and future simultaneously, hitting targets before they even knew they were under attack. "Enemy formation is breaking apart," Yang reported as another wave of Kethran ships crumbled under temporal assault. But the chronophage is still charging. The dark sphere at the center of the alien formation pulsed with unimaginable energy. Space around it began to twist and fold as the weapon prepared to tear holes through time itself. Captain Jin Ho made a decision that horrified his crew. "We need to get closer to the chronophage, close enough to create a temporal feedback loop." "Captain, that's suicide," protested Moonsik Ro, his chief engineer. "If we get too close when that thing fires, we'll be erased along with Earth." "Not if we time it right," Jin Ho replied. "We can use our own temporal shields to reflect the chronophage energy back at itself. But we need to be right next to it when it fires." The plan was insane, but it was their only hope. The massive Vanguard of Tomorrow began moving toward the center of the Kethran formation, its temporal shields glowing with dangerous energy. Admiral Subin coordinated the covering attack as Earth's ships tried to clear a path. "All vessels concentrate fire on the ships guarding the chronophage. We need to give them a clear approach." The space battle reached new levels of intensity. Human fighters dove through storms of alien fire, while temporal weapons rewrote the laws of physics around them. Several Kethran ships simply ceased to exist as time itself was turned against them. But the aliens had surprises of their own. They activated temporal shields that protected them from aging weapons. Worse, they began firing chronophage energy in small bursts, creating holes in space that swallowed human ships completely. "They're adapting to our weapons," reported Ga Young Lim from the future ship's weapons bay. "The temporal attacks are becoming less effective." Captain Sang-woo led another fighter attack, but this time the enemy was ready. Kethran point defense systems filled space with deadly energy, and several human pilots were lost in seconds. "Sang-woo, we're taking heavy casualties," Yuna reported over the radio. Her own fighter had been hit and smoke filled her cockpit. "All fighters fall back to minimum safe distance," Sang-woo ordered. He hated to retreat, but losing more pilots wouldn't help Earth. The Vanguard of Tomorrow continued its dangerous approach toward the chronophage. The future ship's temporal shields were holding, but they flickered and sparked under the strain of approaching such a powerful temporal weapon. "We're detecting massive chronon buildup," reported Ji-Hai Moon, the future ship's science officer. "The chronophage is almost ready to fire." Time was running out. If the Kethran weapon activated before the human ship reached the proper position, Earth would be erased from history. But if they got too close too early, the Vanguard itself would be destroyed. On Earth, scientists Jaemin Oh and Sarah Kim tracked the approaching moment of decision. Their instruments showed reality itself beginning to weaken as too many temporal weapons fired in the same area of space. "The quantum foam is becoming unstable," Jamin reported. "Much more of this, and space itself might collapse into a black hole." Admiral Subin faced an impossible choice. Continue the attack and risk destroying the universe, or retreat and watch Earth be erased from time. Captain Jinho's voice came over the communication system, calm despite the chaos around him. "We're in position. When the chronophage fires, we'll redirect its energy back into itself, but the explosion will create a temporal shockwave. All Earth ships need to get behind the moon for protection." "What about your ship?" Subin asked. There was a pause before Jinho answered. "We exist partially outside normal time. We might survive the paradox, or we might be scattered across every moment that ever was or ever will be." The Kethran chronophage reached full power. The dark sphere pulsed once, twice, then began to emit energy that made space itself scream. "It's firing!" shouted Byung-ho Ryu. The weapon's beam lanced out toward Earth, carrying enough temporal energy to unwrite the planet's entire history. But as it passed the vanguard of tomorrow, something impossible happened. The future ship's temporal shields didn't just block the beam, they caught it, twisted it, and sent it back toward its source. The chronophage energy struck its own weapon in a feedback loop that sent shockwaves through time itself. Reality around the Kethran formation began to collapse. Ships, weapons, and space itself were caught in a temporal storm that aged and erased everything it touched. But the explosion was spreading, threatening to consume everything in the solar system. Earth had only moments before the temporal shockwave reached them. "All ships, emergency jump to coordinates behind Luna," Admiral Subin ordered. "Move now." The surviving human vessels raced toward the safety of Earth's moon as reality came apart behind them. The future ship Vanguard of Tomorrow disappeared into a swirl of twisted time and space. As the temporal storm passed, one question remained. Had they saved Earth, or had they doomed the entire universe? The massive black ship hung in space like a mountain of dark metal. Every person watching, human and alien alike, held their breath. The vessel was so large that Earth's moon looked small beside it. On Earth, xenoarchaeologist Sun Jia studied the ship through the observatory's most powerful telescopes. As an expert on ancient civilizations, she noticed something strange about the ship's design. "Those patterns on the hull," she said to her assistant. "I've seen similar designs in ruins on Mars, but those ruins are millions of years old." The ship's surface was covered with geometric shapes that seemed to shift and change when she wasn't looking directly at them. The architecture reminded her of structures so old that they existed before Earth had developed complex life. At the Deep Space Communications Center, Taejin Shin monitored all frequencies for any signal from the mysterious vessel. As Earth's expert on quantum communications, he understood technologies that most people couldn't even imagine. Suddenly, his equipment began receiving something impossible. Instead of radio waves or data streams, the ship was sending pure information directly into their computers. Mathematical patterns that carried meaning beyond simple numbers. "It's not talking to us," Taejin realized with excitement. "It's sharing memories. Direct knowledge transfer." The information flooding into Earth's computers contained star maps, historical records, and technological data. But strangest of all, it contained something that made Taejin's heart race: human DNA patterns and Earth's geographical data from centuries in the future. Admiral Subin Han received the first translated message on her battleship's bridge. When she read it, she nearly dropped her tablet. "This is Captain Jinho of the Vanguard of Tomorrow," the message said in perfect Korean. "We have arrived to prevent the extinction of our ancestors." "Our ancestors?" Byung-ho Ryu repeated, reading over her shoulder. "Admiral, that would mean—" "They're human," Subin finished, her voice barely a whisper. "But that's impossible. That ship is using technology we can't even understand." The communication continued with more shocking information. "We are humans from the year 2847. In our timeline, Earth was destroyed by the Kethran invasion of 2156. Humanity survived by uploading our consciousness into quantum computers, then eventually building new bodies and technology over centuries." Captain Sang-woo Kim listened to the message from his fighter cockpit. The idea that these were humans from the future seemed crazy, but it explained why the ship had been studying both sides so carefully. "Yuna, did you hear that?" he asked his wingman. "I heard it," Yuna replied, her voice filled with wonder. "They came back through time to save us." But how is that even possible? The answer came from Earth's temporal physics department, where specialist Yunsu Bang had been studying theoretical time travel for years. When she saw the data from the mysterious ship, her theories suddenly became reality. The ship exists partially outside normal spacetime, she explained to her colleagues. It can move through what we call temporal currents, rivers of time that flow between past and future. She showed them calculations that proved the ship was using controlled paradoxes to travel backward through time. They're not just from the future. They exist in a state where they can touch multiple time periods at once. On the future ship Vanguard of Tomorrow, Chief Engineer Moonsik Ro worked to explain their situation to the people of present-day Earth. His voice carried sadness as he described their timeline. In our history, Earth fell to the Catharan in 2156. Every human died. We only survived because some of our consciousness had been stored in quantum computers for research purposes. It took us almost 700 years to build new bodies and develop the technology to travel through time. The future humans had spent centuries fighting the Catharan across multiple timelines. They discovered that the aliens were not just conquering planets in the present, but also trying to eliminate threats in the past. The Catharan have their own time technology, Moonsik continued. They've been going back to destroy species before they become dangerous. Earth is just one of many targets. This revelation changed everything. The battle around Earth wasn't just about one planet or one species. It was part of a war that stretched across time itself. Admiral Subin struggled to understand what she was being told. So you're saying this has happened before? Earth has been destroyed before? Many times, Captain Jinho confirmed. We've tried to save Earth in dozens of different timelines. Sometimes we succeed for a while, but the Catharan always find a way to circle back and destroy humanity eventually. The future humans explained that this particular timeline was special. Earth's position in space and time made it a nexus point, a place where changes could affect the entire flow of history. If we can save Earth here and now, in this timeline we can create a stable loop that protects humanity forever, Jinho said. But we need your help to do it. The Catharan fleet, meanwhile, had been listening to these communications with growing alarm. Their admiral sent an angry message to both human fleets. Time travelers are forbidden by galactic law, the alien declared. You cannot change what has already been decided by the universe. Captain Jinho's response was cold and determined. We didn't ask for permission to exist, and we won't ask for permission to save our people. The future ship began powering up weapons that seemed to bend space around them. The Catharan ships responded by charging their own devastating armaments. On Earth, Prime Minister Jong-ho Park faced an impossible decision. Should he trust these alleged future humans, or were they just another alien threat disguised as saviors? Defense Secretary Mi Young-song provided the answer by showing him the technological analysis. Sir, the ship's computer systems contain detailed records of Earth's history, including events that happened last week. Either they're really from our future or they're the best spies in the universe. The evidence was overwhelming. The future humans knew everything about Earth's recent history, including classified information that no alien could have accessed. But the most convincing proof came from an unexpected source. The future ship transmitted personal messages, recordings of people's descendants from centuries in the future, speaking to their ancestors in the present. Yuna Bai received a message from a woman who looked exactly like her, claiming to be her great-great-granddaughter. The woman knew family secrets that only Yuna's grandmother had ever known. We carry the memories of our ancestors, the future Yuna said. Every generation has passed down the stories of this day, the day our timeline split between extinction and survival. Similar messages reached other people across Earth, descendants speaking to ancestors, sharing memories that had been preserved across centuries. The emotional impact was overwhelming, but it served a purpose. The future humans needed the present ones to believe, because what came next would require complete trust and cooperation. The Catharan are about to deploy their ultimate weapon, Captain Jinho warned, a device that doesn't just destroy planets, it erases them from time itself. Once they use it, Earth will never have existed at all. Admiral Subin looked at her tactical display. The alien ships were indeed arranging themselves in a new formation, one that her computers identified as a preparation for some kind of massive energy discharge. How long do we have? She asked. Less than 1 hour, Jinho replied. But we have a plan. It's dangerous and it will require both our fleets working together. Are you ready to save not just Earth but all of human history? Subin looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. They were scared, but they were also determined. They had come this far fighting an impossible enemy. Now they had impossible allies. Tell us what we need to do, she said. The mysterious object moved through space like nothing humans had ever seen. At the Deep Space Observatory on Earth's far side, scientist Jae-min-oh stared at his computer screen with wide eyes. The readings made no sense. Sarah, look at this, he called to his partner. Sarah Kim hurried over from her own workstation, her coffee cup forgotten. That's impossible, Sarah whispered as she read the data. Nothing can move that fast without using jump drives or wormholes. But this thing is just flying through normal space. The numbers on their screen showed something the size of a small city racing toward Earth. It moved faster than light, but somehow it wasn't using any technology they could recognize. Look at the gravity readings. Jamin pointed at another section of data. It's bending space around itself, like it's making space shorter in front and longer behind. Meanwhile, in the intelligence center beneath Seoul, Chang-Min Lee worked frantically to understand what was happening. His job was to listen to enemy communications and figure out their plans. But today the Kethran messages confused him completely. Yeonji, help me with this, he called to the code-breaking expert at the next desk. Yeonji Park was the best at understanding alien languages, but even she looked puzzled. They're scared, Yeonji said after listening to the alien voices. I've never heard them sound like this. They keep using words I can't translate, but the tone is pure fear. Chang-Min played back one of the messages. The Kethran Admiral's voice, usually calm and commanding, now carried obvious panic. They keep saying something about dark wanderers and extinction fleet. What do you think that means? Yeonji shook her head. I don't know, but it's making them change their whole battle plan. Look. She pointed at the tactical screen showing the space battle above Earth. The Kethran ships, which had been arranged to attack Earth, were now forming defensive circles. Their weapons pointed outward away from the planet. It looked like they expected to be attacked by something much more dangerous than human fighters. In space, Captain Do-hyun Nam commanded the reconnaissance ship Seoul Scout. His job was to scout ahead and gather information about enemy movements. Today his sensors were picking up something that shouldn't exist. Captain, the readings are getting stronger, said Hyojin Kang, his sensor operator. The young woman's fingers danced over her controls, trying to get better information about the approaching object. How big is it? Do-hyun asked, though he almost didn't want to know the answer. Bigger than their largest dreadnought, Hyojin replied. Maybe 3 times bigger. But sir, it's still invisible to our cameras. We can detect its mass and energy, but we can't see it. Do-hyun felt a chill run down his spine. The largest Kethran ship was already the size of a small city. Something 3 times bigger would be enormous beyond imagination. On the battleship bridge, Admiral Subin Han received reports from all her remaining ships. The news was the same everywhere. Something massive was approaching, but they couldn't see it. Admiral, we're getting strange readings, said Minwoo Jian, her communications officer. It's like something is scanning us. Our ships, the alien ships, everything. Subin studied the tactical display. The mysterious object would arrive in less than 10 minutes. Whatever it was, it had been watching the battle and studying both sides. Has it tried to communicate? She asked. Minwoo shook his head. Nothing we can understand. But there are energy pulses that might be some kind of scanning beam. It's like it's taking pictures of our technology. The Kethran fleet continued to reorganize. Their ships moved into tight formations like soldiers preparing for a last stand. Admiral Subin had fought these aliens for 3 years, and she had never seen them act defensively. If the Kethran are scared of this thing, should we be happy or terrified? Asked Byung-ho Ryu from his tactical station. Before Subin could answer, new alarms started ringing. The sensors showed the mysterious object was slowing down, preparing to stop near Earth's moon. Captain Sang-woo Kim and his surviving fighters hung back from the main battle, watching the drama unfold. Yuna Bay flew beside him, her fighter's sensors focused on the area where the invisible ship would appear. Sang-woo, do you think it's here to help us? Yuna asked over their private radio channel. I don't know, Sang-woo admitted, but anything that scares the Kethran this much might be our only hope. Down on Earth in the Xenology Department, Hyun-Soo Lee and Haewon Cho worked to understand the alien panic. The Kethran communications were becoming more frantic by the minute. They're calling for reinforcements, Haewon translated.
ships from their home fleet.
But listen to this. They're saying the reinforcements might not arrive in time. Hyun-soo felt confused. In time for what? They have the most powerful fleet in known space. What could they be afraid of? The answer came from an unexpected source. The Kethran admiral sent a broadcast on all frequencies, speaking in broken human language instead of his own tongue. Unknown vessel, the alien voice said, filled with fear. We know you are there. This system belongs to the hegemony now. Humans are scheduled for extinction. Do not interfere. The response to this message was silence. Whatever was approaching Earth chose not to answer. Scientists Jae-min-oh and Sarah Kim continued to monitor the approaching object. Their instruments showed it was slowing down, but the physics still made no sense. It's like it exists partially outside normal space, Jaemin muttered. The gravity readings keep changing, like it's flickering in and out of reality. Sarah checked her calculations again. At its current speed, it should arrive right about... She paused and looked at the clock. Now! Space near Earth's moon suddenly exploded with light and energy. Reality seemed to twist and bend as something enormous forced its way into normal space. The Kethran ships rocked backward from the gravitational waves. When the light faded, a ship appeared that dwarfed everything else in the battle. It was black as deep space, shaped like a giant arrow, and covered with strange angles that hurt to look at. The ship seemed to absorb light instead of reflecting it. My God, Admiral Subin whispered. What is that thing? The mysterious vessel hung in space between Earth and the Kethran fleet. It made no threatening moves, but its presence changed everything. The alien ships that had seemed so powerful now looked like toys next to this dark giant. For several minutes, nothing happened. The three fleets, human, Kethran, and unknown, waited in tense silence. Then slowly the mysterious ship began to turn. Its weapons, if it had any, remained hidden. But somehow everyone in the battle knew that everything was about to change. Captain Do-hyun Nam watched from his reconnaissance ship as scanning beams reached out from the dark vessel. It was studying everything. Human technology, Kethran ships, even Earth itself. Whatever it is, Do-hyun said quietly. It's been watching us for a while. It knows exactly what it's walking into. The question that filled everyone's mind was simple but terrifying. Whose side was it on? The alarm bells rang across Earth's last defense station. Fleet Admiral Subin Han stood on the bridge of her battleship, watching the enemy ships fill the dark space around Earth. The Kethran fleet looked like floating cities made of crystal and metal. Each ship was bigger than anything humans had ever built. Subin felt her heart race as she counted the enemy vessels. 300 alien warships surrounded Earth like hungry wolves. Her own fleet had only 40 ships. The numbers made her sick to her stomach. Admiral, they're charging their main weapons, said Byung-ho Ryu, her tactical officer. His voice shook as he read the sensor data. The young man had been brave in every battle before this one, but today fear filled his eyes. Subin looked at the main screen. The largest Kethran ship hung in space like a giant crystal mountain. Energy gathered at its front, glowing with deadly light. She had seen that weapon before. It could erase entire moons from existence. All ships prepare for combat, Subin ordered into her communication device. Her voice stayed calm, but inside she knew this might be humanity's last battle. Far below on Earth's surface, Prime Minister Jong-ho Park sat in the underground command center beneath Seoul. The walls around him showed the chaos happening in space above. His hands gripped the arms of his chair as he watched human ships trying to fight an impossible enemy. Sir, the evacuation ships are ready, said Mi Young-song, the defense secretary. She stood behind him with a tablet full of bad news. But there's nowhere to run. The aliens have ships waiting at every space route. Jong-ho closed his eyes for a moment. 3 years ago, the Kethran had appeared at the edge of the solar system. They claimed humans were a disease that needed to be removed from the galaxy. No amount of talking had changed their minds. In space, Captain Sang-woo Kim led his fighter squadron toward the enemy line. His ship, small and fast, darted between the massive alien vessels. Behind him flew 11 other pilots, including Yunabei, his best wingman. Iron Eagle Squadron, target the small ships first, Sang-woo said over the radio. He knew their weapons could barely scratch the big enemy ships, but maybe they could hurt the smaller ones. Yuna flew close beside him, her fighter weaving through enemy fire. Sang-woo, there are too many of them, she said. Her voice stayed steady, but he could hear the worry underneath. A bright flash filled space as one of the Kethran ships fired. The beam of light touched 3 human fighters and they simply disappeared. No explosion, no pieces left behind. They just stopped existing. Pull back, Sang-woo shouted, but it was too late. More beams reached out from the alien ships. Yuna barely escaped as the light passed right through the space where her fighter had been a second before. Back on Earth, Hyun-Soo Lee worked frantically in the xenology department. As head of the alien studies team, he had spent 3 years trying to understand the Kethron. Now he worked with Haewon Cho, their best language expert, to decode the enemy's latest message. "What do they want from us?" Haewon asked as she typed on her computer. The alien symbols on her screen looked like twisted metal and broken glass. Hyun-Soo shook his head. "The same thing they've always wanted. They want us dead. All of us." He pointed at the translation appearing on the screen. "They're giving Earth 1 hour to surrender. But their version of surrender means extinction." The Kethron had made their position clear from the beginning. They believed humans would become dangerous if allowed to spread across the galaxy. Their solution was simple: remove humanity completely. On the battleship's bridge, Subin watched her fleet fall apart. The human ships fought bravely, but the alien weapons were too powerful. Every few minutes, another human vessel vanished in a flash of light. "Admiral, we're losing the outer defense line," Byung-ho reported. His fingers moved quickly over his control panel, trying to coordinate the failing battle. "The enemy is moving closer to Earth." Subin knew she had to make a choice. She could order her remaining ships to retreat and save some lives, or she could keep fighting and lose everything. Either way, Earth would fall. The largest Kethron ship moved toward Earth's moon. Subin had seen intelligence reports about this vessel. The aliens called it a world killer. It could destroy entire planets with one shot. "They're going to demonstrate their power," Subin whispered. "They're going to destroy the moon to show us what happens to Earth if we don't surrender." Captain Sang-woo and his remaining fighters tried one more attack run. They dove toward a group of smaller alien ships, firing everything they had. Their weapons hit the crystal hulls but did almost no damage. "It's like shooting at a mountain with a water gun," Yuna said over the radio. Her fighters shook as alien weapons fired back at them. Suddenly, all the sensors on every human ship began showing something impossible. A massive object was approaching from deep space, moving faster than anything should be able to move. "Admiral, you need to see this," Byung-ho said, his voice filled with confusion. "Something big is coming." "Really big?" Subin looked at the sensor readings and felt her breath catch. The object was huge, bigger than the largest Kethron ship, but it wasn't showing up on visual sensors. Whatever it was completely invisible to their eyes. Even stranger, the Kethron fleet suddenly stopped their attack. The aliens' crystal ships began moving into defensive positions, as if they were afraid of something. What could scare them? Subin wondered aloud. The Kethron admiral sent a message across all frequencies. For the first time since arriving at Earth, the alien's voice carried fear instead of confidence. "Unknown vessel, identify yourself," the Kethron demanded. "This system is under hegemony control," but there was no answer. The mysterious object kept coming, moving through space like a ghost. Human sensors could detect its gravity and mass, but their eyes saw nothing. Subin felt a strange hope growing in her chest. For 3 years, humanity had faced this threat alone. Now something else had arrived. Something that made the powerful Kethron afraid. Whatever was coming, it was about to change everything.